Hello and welcome to another episode of the IAMKAYPEE podcast. It's me, your host, KP, and I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday festive season, as I did, and I am joined by Laura Hope today.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I am very good, actually.
I'm glad to hear that.
And did you have a good holiday?
I think you know I did because you were there.
Well, I don't know. I'm not just going to assume that you had a good
I had
one.
a terrible time. I really don't like you or any of my family or your family, so it was terrible and horrible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to sort of preface this for everyone, this year was the first time our families met. And if anyone that doesn't know, Laura and I are obviously together.
We're just really good friends who live together.
Yeah, we just spent Christmas together.
Yeah.
Well, our families did, and we
didn't.
We didn't
left.
go. We just organised it, and
yeah.
then
I'm not Christian. Yeah, it was fun. It was really, really nice. I got to have all my people in one place, which is unusual since I am from Canada but live and work in Scotland. And we did a crazy social experiment where we and all of our respective families went to a third location and tried to cook in a kitchen we've never been in before. And it went really, really well. Amazingly.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of assumed it would do. Everyone was on their best behavior.
Exactly.
Because
yeah.
it's Christmas. Not that anyone's going to go crazy and murder someone, but
No.
there's still always that sort of unknown element when you bring two families together.
Exactly. Because they don't have
Two
really
tribes.
anything in common.
I
Other
mean, there's
than
a whole
us.
song about it, like two tribes go to war.
I don't know
That
that
could have
one.
been. You don't know that
No.
one? Oh, I forgot you were like a
Raised in
feral
a box.
child. They don't have Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
I've
When
heard of.
two tribes go to war, go to war.
I only know one Frankie Goes to Hollywood song.
I'll play you it actually,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't get flagged from YouTube because I'm playing it on my laptop, but the mic will pick it up and I won't be playing it into my mixer. So
Does that count? Does that count?
that's all good.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say because it was published in the year 1900 and everyone's dead, so it's public domain now.
There's this sort of weird influx of stuff coming in just now, isn't there? Of stuff that's ran out of their copyright.
Yeah. There's that. I don't know if it's still going, but there used to be a website called the Public Domain Review, and they'd like go through stuff that was the copyright was expiring.
I guess essentially what it means is you can then, it's up to you, you can use it in anything at that point.
Yeah, you
But
don't
can't
have
own
to.
You can't own it, obviously.
No,
Can you buy
can't.
it if it's in the public domain?
I don't think so, no, because who would you be buying it from?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's weird that anything that you create after, is it 100 years?
I think it's 100 years after your death.
Okay.
Your death personally. No, I don't quite remember. I think it's after the death of the author and not the publication date. I'm not sure. And then there's also to do with the author's estate, and because I know they had problems with say like adaptations of Dracula early on, because Bram Stoker's estate was like pretty into controlling it. So like the whole Nosferatu film had sort of a weird history based on Bram Stoker's estate being edgy about it. But I don't recall exactly.
Yeah, it is a weird one, though.
Yeah.
I mean, just sort of like something that you create then becomes public.
Yeah.
Just a public sort of entity.
I think I like it because especially if it's not, especially if you can't then own it, I think it's nice that it does free stuff up, because it's not like if you've been dead for 100 years, you're benefiting from it really. So if it's a question of like being able to adapt something.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's definitely not it. I'm trying to find two tribes. Was it Frankie Goes to Hollywood then that did it, maybe? Two
I don't know.
tribes. Yeah, it seems like it. Two tribes go to war. Let's see if this is it. And YouTube, don't sue me.
Hey, YouTube.
We're all tubes.
Because Frankie's been dead for...
I think I was like a main... There it is. The video is pretty cool as well.
I bet.
It's two like obviously a Russian oligarch and
yeah.
an American president going to
really?
fighting each other.
That's funny.
Not current presidents, obviously. That
would be amazing, but also they'd be like making out. So
I mean, that should be how they sort these things out. Just to get the two governments, the head of governments, to fight each other.
Single combat.
I mean, it's like Troy. Is it Troy?
Yes. Yeah.
And they obviously, back then, they would get their two best warriors to fight each other. And that would pretty much determine the outcome of the war. Do you think it was something that they did though?
I think because it would save
like, fuck that. I'm still going to overtake these people.
Often probably that would be the case because you'd bring both your entire armies there, and then you had the option to do single combat because it would just keep a lot of people from getting killed essentially. But then both sides have to actually do it and behave.
Yeah, because you came all this way, all the turmoil of being on a war campaign.
Yeah.
You've left your love behind if you had one. Man or women,
or wombat, or
probably if you were in Troy around then, it would have been women and men.
Well, they would have come with you if you were coming from.
That's Sparta. It's different.
Yeah.
Is it called single combat?
I guess so. Not married combat.
Partnership.
Because they did it. I'm trying to.
Okay, so single combat, this is from Wikipedia, is a duel between two single warriors which takes part in the context of a battle between two armies. Often it is champion warfare, with the two considered the champions of their respective sides. Instances of single combat are known from classical antiquity. That was a hard one. I've not had any booze today, which is strange. And the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that determined the outcome. Or was it just a bit of a laugh?
Yeah. I think
you're drunk, having a bit of a laugh with the lads.
I think it would depend. Army of them. Yeah. What everyone had agreed to. Yeah, interesting. Because I know that the emphasis in terms of the medieval trial by combat as well was on not on who was stronger, but on the winner was the winner because he was chosen by God. So it wasn't so much like he's the best warrior. It was like God decided he should win.
No, obviously the famous account of that would be David versus Goliath. That was done, single combat.
Yes. I can't remember the background to that because
it's in the Bible. There is no background.
I do know that, but
it was in battle. So.
I mean, okay, so that was what I meant was it two armies coming together and they decided that?
Well, I think it pretty much David and Goliath, when that happened, it determined the outcome.
Yeah.
Because their greatest warrior was vanquished. Mm-hmm. And that is as good as sort of just taking out the main guy.
Yeah.
I think no armies want to fight after that.
Makes it sound kind of like it's made up.
Oh, it's definitely made up.
Yeah. Sweet. So they should do that now.
Yeah, well, yeah, we should
Except
do that.
Then Russia would just be the king of everything because...
What do you think? Putin could probably whoop old Trumpy's ass.
Yeah, because Trump's got reach, I guess, but then he's got tiny little hands on the end, so I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, his arms compensate for having the lack of actual just normal size hands.
Yeah.
He
probably has the same length of reach. It's just like that he gets there in a different way.
Because he has like very small hands.
That's funny.
He has orangutan arms and just really small hands, so that makes for a normal adult.
An average arm. That's
terrible boxer.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that people think determines people's knockout power in combat sports is the size of the fists, because that is the main part as well. But I guess it has to be the force that is thrown at with.
Because otherwise everyone could just wear those foam hands from like football games and slap each other with them. They're really big, but they're not like going to knock anybody out.
That's not your fist though. That's like an open...
But if it's just a question of the size of the thing on the end, then...
But I think then that if that force is then... it is then sort of exacerbated by having a large fist, large fist, then that is only going to make for a better sort of punch, I think.
Yeah.
If you have small hands and you punch powerfully, you're still going to knock someone out.
Yeah.
But you can only just be even that bit better if you have that punching power as well as having a massive fist.
Yeah, I guess if it's like a 10 out of 10 on everything, then that. But I think if you're not already good, having a big fist isn't going to help you, I suppose. Look at my giant hands.
You just go around punching people like, what's wrong with me? Just keep knocking these people out.
Yes, what is wrong with you?
I just knock people out just because I have massive hands. Just big fist though, not like
just
long
trying to
fingers.
high five people. Yeah, they're just really like a lot of spread, but like stubby little fingers, like a rake.
It's like a slab of steak across the filled chops.
Humanity is a rich species.
And one of the things we were talking about the other day, because I think it was in relation to watching a documentary on BBC iPlayer, and it's called Celts, Blood, Iron and Sacrifice. I might have that the wrong way around.
Celts and stuff.
It's Neil Oliver, who's a Scottish archaeologist. He's really good.
He is, and my mom likes him.
He just likes all those sort of like intelligent, sort of quirky people.
Yeah.
Because she loves Jeff Goldblum, doesn't she?
She does. And Alan Cumming as well. Yeah. Fan of Alan Cumming. Yeah. But those are all like, yeah. But yeah.
No pun intended, obviously.
No, of course not.
Innuendo. So Alan, if you can say it with a straight face, Cumming.
Yes. Also, 2 out of the 3 of those are Scottish, so I think I'm noticing a type.
Jeff Goldblum, but everyone kind of has a soft spot for him.
Yeah, because he's just like a wonderful maniac as well.
Yeah, he's crazy.
He is. I remember though the first time I watched The Fly, and I knew my mom like fancied Jeff Goldblum, and I was like, why? Because when you're a kid and you don't get like charisma and stuff like that, like he's just like a funny looking kind of creepy dude, and he turns into a fly.
What else had he been in at that point? Because he was super young in the
yeah.
Fly.
When did that came out? Before Jurassic Park?
Oh yeah. The Fly, I think The Fly is like late 80s, I think.
Yeah, I certainly.
The Fly.
The Big Chill. When did that come out?
The Big Chill.
My favorite film.
The Fly. It came out in one of the best years ever. Actually.
Is it your birth year?
No.
Is it my birth year?
Definitely not. It's 1986.
Oh, what a coincidence!
So yeah.
So yeah, you were born like in 1886, right? So it's like the centennial of your birth.
You can just bugger off. I invited you on the show out of the goodness of my heart, and then you just diss me with old jokes. Jokes that are literally old, not just because I am old. Jeff. It's a weird name. Seth Brundle was his name.
Really?
In the Fly.
Oh, that is weird. He also has a wonderful cameo in a Woody Allen film, and he's at some Hollywood party, and he's just on the phone saying, "I forgot my mantra," and it's the best.
He's been a bunch of stuff. Don't know why they haven't used him in more sort of stuff. Maybe he's just been a bit picky with what he's acting.
Yeah, because he can't if he overuses it, like the whatever is going to come off. He almost got carried away with Portlandia, so he has to.
So before The Fly, he was in Transylvania 6 to 5000. Must be like a futuristic.
That sounds terrible.
Into the Night. Fairy Tale spelt with a Faerie. So it must be like.
Ooh, ye olde fairy tale.
His name was Buck Wolf.
The Tale of Fairies. Oh, that's a good name.
We got watching an advert from this.
Yes.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. He seems to be in a lot of like.
I am familiar with.
Like sort of science type TV shows.
Yeah.
The Big Chill was 1983.
And it's wonderful.
I've never seen it.
It's really good.
He was in Threshold. He was called Aldo Gering, which is a bit suspicious.
I think people just
could that
see
be
him
like
and they
Portuguese German, like Brazilian German? So maybe he's like a sort of Nazi scientist.
Could be.
Aldo Gering.
That's a weird one. I feel like people see him and they're like, Jeff Goldblum, Jeffrey Goldblum, like normal name, weird name. Like we'll give him a normal name and a weird name.
Is he Jewish?
I assume so.
Why?
Goldblum.
So you're stereotyping him?
No, it just is a Jewish name.
You're saying he looks like a Jew? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying his name
terrible,
is Jewish.
You're just throwing hard J's all around the place. He was in Annie Hall.
Yes, that's got to be the cameo with the
Sentinel, the Blue Knight.
With a K or an N?
So his first movie part was Death Wish, 1974. Remember it?
No.
It was, I think it was, had Bronson in it, maybe?
Oh, yeah. That does ring a bell, actually.
Charles Bronson, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was a freak.
A a freak.
Yeah.
Not the freak, a freak.
No. He wasn't a freak. He was freak number 1.
Oh, so he was a freak. At least he was the number 1 freak. You don't want to be like the number 4 freak.
Death Wish. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really funny. That does, yeah.
It's supposed to be a good movie as well, that
I'd be
one.
interested to see that.
So a New York City architect becomes a one-man vigilante squad after his wife is murdered by street punks.
Street punks,
Bloody
eh?
street, in which
Bloody
he
street
randomly
punks.
goes out and kills would-be muggers on the main streets. That has to be like...
Am I meant to believe that Charles Bronson was an architect at some
No,
point in that?
That is the most like unbelievable part of the whole thing. And there are many unbelievable parts of the premise.
I'm really enjoying that then. Okay, I really want to see that, mainly to see Charles Bronson play an architect.
Yeah, like how does he become an architect? He just like does like Georgian drawings of like, you know, like the line drawings of
yeah,
houses.
like the sort of like Palladian, like oh, so
and
harmonious.
flowers,
Yes,
and then a
of
little
course, he has
picket
spectacles
fence.
jammed onto his massive head. I am super keen to see that now.
Death Wish. I didn't know that's. Yeah, I didn't even know that was the premise of it. I need to watch it, but there's a second Death Wish, so he didn't maybe die the first time.
He didn't get what he wished
No.
for.
But there is no Death Wish 3, so maybe he does get it. So,
Yeah, or maybe he stops wishing to die. Maybe he attains some sort of Zen
yeah.
state.
Architectural,
So just like a lot of symmetry
yeah.
stills the heart of the.
I mean, how can you even like come to like a film studio with that premise? Like,
Maybe Charles Bronson
he's just
them.
randomly killing people who would be muggers, not like actual muggers or people who are proper criminals. It's people he thinks could be. Yeah.
So he's just profiling people.
He's not even a vigilante. He's a murderer.
Yeah, he just is
He's
like
just murdering
a
people.
nervous murderer. Yeah. That's great. Like, I can only assume that Charles Bronson somehow made them do this because he's quite intimidating.
Yeah, and I want to play an architect. See?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how he talks.
I like that he's like an old-timey gangster in this as well.
I think all the films I've seen of Charles Bronson, he doesn't really talk in them, so I never have really heard his voice.
I don't think he can like learn lines. I don't think that's his forte.
Yeah, he has to be a silent. Maybe he plays like a deaf architect or something. He can't speak. That would not be that unbelievable, considering the whole premise is him being an architect.
Yeah, like I say, that's definitely the most unbelievable part of that.
So the storyline further down is open-minded architect Paul Kersey returns to New York from vacationing with his wife, feeling on top of the world. Oh, he's getting set up here.
Definitely. And he's not going to be open-minded anymore. He's going to be...
His cynical co-worker gives him the welcome back with a warning on the rising crime rate. It just seems
How long was he away
random.
for?
I know. He's been away for 2 weeks. Things have just
It's
gotten out of hand.
real.
There would be muggers out there. They
Yes.
don't even know they're going to be muggers.
No.
At any given moment, they could go crazy and mug you. You have to preemptively stop all that.
Of course, yes. It could be anybody.
Yeah. So how do we even get onto this? Oh, single combat, I think, is how we got.
Yeah, that was elaborate. Single combat to Neil Oliver. That was it. Back to Neil Oliver, Celts. That was it.
I think what I wanted to bring it round to was because we were watching the Celts show. If you haven't seen it, go on BBC iPlayer and search Celts, Blood, Iron and Sacrifice, I think is the subtitle. And it's in 4 parts, but there's only the first part out at this moment, so we're waiting on the second. But it's just amazing.
Yeah, Neil,
like
hurry up.
the Celts are just like, I never knew like their civilization was so in depth as they are. I mean, I've been listening to Dan Carlin's episode, the Celtic Holocaust. Is it the Celtic or yeah, Celtic Holocaust, and it's just. And when you read about it and are taught that in primary school, you know that the Romans always came up against it.
Yeah.
And they always were sort of came up against Celts in different parts of the land that they were overtaken, but that doesn't seem to be actually like the story. It seems like they were a budding civilization.
Yeah.
And then they would come and meet the Romans, and then they would have these skirmishes and then big wars, and the Celts had the Romans bested a lot at the time as well.
Yeah, I think I really like the way that Dan Carlin kind of describes it in the podcast, which is that they were getting close to being sort of a fully civilized civilization, but they were still a little bit of the old barbarian, depending on sort of how far away you were. And that what made them kind of vulnerable to the Romans ultimately wasn't that they weren't civilized enough, or it was just the fact that they'd sort of lost their edge but hadn't fully emerged as a civilization. Like they were sort of nascent still, but they were doing like really advanced stuff at the same time.
And I think anyone that watches, if they're interested in Celts, as I am, watch this documentary series. It doesn't even really matter if you're Scottish or not.
No.
The guy's like a legit archaeologist, and it's quite in depth as well. It goes like from the origins of Celts in different parts of the world to the Roman Empire coming up against it with them.
Yeah.
If you watch that, you should couple it with Dan Carlin's podcast, Hardcore History. Mm-hmm. Is it Hardcore History? Yes. And there's the episode called The Celtic Holocaust. Now it's fucking 5 hours long.
It is, but it goes by really quickly.
Yeah, you don't even have to listen to it. I wonder, like everyone that listens to long format podcasts, a lot of people do it when they're traveling, or I can't do it when I'm at the gym. A lot of people can do that, but I can't.
No, I wouldn't be able to focus.
Like I need some like death metal in there, stuff like really disgusting metal that I would never listen to normally. Not that I don't like metal, but just the grungiest and the fastest and the dirtiest, so I can just get my workout and start pumping iron.
Does 45-second works out.
Gotta start making Arnold noises. Just getting in the gym, I make those noises.
Spat my coffee out there.
Just walk in and I'm like, oh, this guy's ready to work out.
Oh yeah, he is. He's doing the full on Arnold speaking in tongues thing.
If you pose 4 or 5 times before you even get to the changing room, that's when you know you're like a legit gym goer.
And don't forget to scream when you hit the pose.
I think that's called Euro training. Is it not? Have you not heard of that?
No.
The great and famous Terry Crews did a whole skit called Euro training.
He's so funny.
Terry Crews, Euro. This was an old one. I think it was on the Man Show or something like that. Or no, it was on a shit. It was on a shit TV show.
Yes. Is Terry Crews gonna sue us?
We'll have to talk over it so I don't get like
thrown
out.
Right.
But if you haven't seen it, it's from a TV show with that guy.
Who is that guy?
So Terry Crews is the personal trainer, and he's showing them this new style of working out, which is basically just Terry Crews like pop locking.
Yeah,
with
he's just fully like pop locking and and kind of groaning and screaming a little bit.
But you have to shout Euro training, Euro.
Oh, now he's doing sort of like Russian dancing. That's very impressive, actually.
As one. So the guy did that for.
Oh, so that's one. Okay, cool. He's like barely.
No, the
sweating.
bench press. You can't think that could get any like. It's just an old school way of doing. Oh no!
You throw it up in the air and clap in between and scream. Don't forget to scream. Wow.
So that's Euro training.
Amazing. Well, that seems very. I mean, if Terry Crews is the end result, can't argue with that.
Seems very Eurocentric.
It probably is.
It's always funny to me that when you see Europe represented in shows around that era and before that, because this is like I think mid 2000s, it's always has like there's this weird view that North America, and maybe less so in Canada, because you guys are quite close to the UK.
Yeah.
Not geographically.
And France.
Just in like ideals and whatever.
Yeah.
But like America just has this weird view of like Europe. Like it's this
I think it's this like
freak show of like people bagging everyone, and
I think it's like an attraction repulsion thing. I think it's like because there is all that like history of sort of paranoia about intellectuals and aristocrats, like the old European kind of vampires. So you're not American. But then it was also like where all the good stuff still came from, and it was where all the like non-Puritans had hung out. So it was where all people still had like sex and armpits and stuff like that.
Because there's that episode of It's Always Sunny, and I think it's when Dennis and Mac break up. And Dennis needs a new flatmate, so he has this German guy, and he's trying to get into like the sort of Euro-style sex scene, you know how it's
and it's always
relaxed,
like
he's set up like a glory hole and threesomes, and he's like, oh, he's German, the guy, and he's like,
That's
oh yeah,
funny.
the Euro 6 is it's great.
That's funny.
But he has like a terrible German accent because he's like
Not really German.
he's American.
Yeah.
And eventually it leads to him setting up something that's very like Euro and free, and it's basically Frank's in one side of the cubicle with the glory hole, and Dennis is in the other, and he thinks like he's there to like bang a girl. But
Yeah.
they're there to like touch each
no.
other. He's like, I'm not into this.
That's funny.
It's great. Good
But yeah, I
episode.
think it's just like Americans associating, like having come over to America because people were relative Puritans compared to what was going on in Europe at that point. And it's sort of like both judgmental and like kind of wistful as well. Like, we're not allowed to do stuff like that over here. We have to
And I guess
have
if
nuclear
you
families. And
if you go somewhere else, it's usually going to be back, especially back then. It's going to be under the guise of being religious and trying to do it better somewhere else, and maybe sort of more be Moorish, and that has shaped a lot of America because it's like it was all just puritanical religiousness that came to those shores, and that's what sort of kept everyone in these units to survive. But at the same time, it made them batshit crazy.
Yes, and it's sort of like it's somewhat against human nature as well. Like they left Europe because all this stuff was too much and it bothered them, whatever it was actually at that point. But then you don't have any like push pull then in your new society. Like it's just all straight up, and I don't think that's really good for people.
No, it's not. Like you're going to go a hell of a lot of a way and in the other way, as opposed to having something like other parts of civilization to sort of even them out.
Yeah.
It's going to go down a yellow brick road, so to speak.
Yeah, and stuff like that will always find a way of coming out as well. It just doesn't work. You can't really repress people. So, but it's funny because like when I was traveling when I was younger, I definitely associated Europe with being kind of more conservative at the same time as well.
Really?
Depending on like if you wanted to, I guess it's specifically to do with religion again, but if you were like going into a church or something in Italy, you couldn't have like bare shoulders or something like that. As a woman, you'd get like dirty looks and stuff like that. Or like even when we were in Greece, and if you wanted to go into a church that was like in use, you'd have to cover your hair, stuff like that.
So talking of coming out and not the North America, you'd have to go a bit further south though. This whole stuff in Brazil just now with the president, I mean, that is insane. If people haven't heard about it, because it's something that's not been in mainstream media really, especially over here. I think it's mostly in America because Trump and this guy are seen as little butt buddies or whatever.
Yeah.
But the Brazilian president's just an out and out homophobe. Like he calls himself a homophobe.
Yeah.
Just like hates the LGBT community and has taken away legislation that had been signed in with the last president. And he's saying Brazil has to be all about the family, the nuclear family unit, and can't be distracted and divided by these sort of obscure liberal sort of hippiness,
like non-breedery,
and that's what's going to break Brazil apart if they do. But that he's in his sort of presidential circle, it's like fanatical religious people as well. There's like pastors and all that in there.
Yeah, it's gone quite weird. Yeah, I haven't been following it super closely because I feel like I've had my hands full with Britain and the EU and America, but it did just sort of creep up all of a sudden. It's like, where did it kind of come from?
It's kind of just, and he's even like having environmentalists worried about the Amazon as well, because he's just pulling out all this sort of money that's funding to stop the eradication of the Amazon and protecting the indigenous tribes of the Amazon. And he doesn't care. Like those are all sinners to him. If they're not following religion, then he sees them as people that aren't helping.
That's just so crazy. Like, it's just like, regardless of whatever your personal beliefs are, it's like the world we live in, you can't see something like a rainforest as being sort of like, well, that's not our thing, so who cares? Like, you
can't see the rainforest for the trees sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Or the rain. So.
Jeez. Can't see the rain for the forest. It's just like, regardless of who lives there or whatever. Like, why don't you think that will affect you? Like, it's going to affect your like, it's not that renewable a resource. It's going to affect your economy pretty quickly.
That can't be good, because there's a bunch of countries surrounding Brazil that are going through unrest, like civil unrest, and that's only going to spill into Brazil when there's someone who's far right that's put into place.
It did seem like one of the few sort of relatively stable kind of countries in that region, and now not so much anymore, which is great because it seems to be happening all over the world, as a lot of countries that seem to be stable are in fact not that stable.
Yeah.
So, which we were talking about this the other day, but it'd be funny if this whole kind of global project is actually kind of a blip, like if everyone at least trying to pretend to be democratic and you know, have reasonably chilled borders and trading and mobility and communication actually ended up being a weird thing that happened for about a century, and then we all just went back to trying to kill everybody.
I mean, we as a generation, millennials, I guess, we're part of it. That generation has only just known democracy, really, in the Western world. So that is just the norm to us, the preset. That is the sort of like the basis of all wars for us, is always to sort of spread democracy. And
or like just, supposed peacekeeping
and under the guise of that, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just like an anomaly that has happened in the last 70 years. This is not something that's always been like this.
No, exactly. And I think because it was, at least scary. I don't know about your sort of education, but for me, like democracy and the principle of democracy was very actively taught to us. And you feel like it's because it's like inevitable, it's so important, but at the same time, maybe it's because it's actually quite fragile. And especially when you have leaders like Donald Trump, who, even though he's democratically elected-ish, if he doesn't follow the rules, he stops really being, just because you're elected doesn't mean you're governing democratically. Like, I mean, it's happened time and time again where, say, in ancient Rome or in ancient Greece, they'd sort of elect somebody to take charge in a kind of autocratic way when they're in times of like great distress. And then the idea was after that person to be like, okay, I'm finished. I'll give this back to you guys now. And of course that didn't happen all the time, because once you've been given complete power, you get to make the rules, basically. And
that's what's so tantalizing about sort of the like communism and dictatorships, is one person's going to reap the benefits of a whole nation. And that's enough for anyone to keep them enslaved in a sense.
Even if you have only good intentions, if you convince yourself you're the only person who can accomplish them and you have nobody checking or balancing you, then you're exactly the same as I
mean, imagine if a family like the royals, imagine one day they just decided to take over and turn the UK into a dictatorship. What that family has went through, and has sort of, their worldview is completely different from the rest of us. And what they think is right to them isn't what the whole of the country subscribes to. But at the same time, the Queen probably thinks she's doing the right thing. She knows best, she's the head of the state and whatever. But imagine how terrible that would be. And that's what happens in these places. Like, there's a level of class that then becomes the dictators and then, the head of these places, but they're so far removed from those lower echelons of society that they just don't understand it.
And I mean, that's not that far off from the government we have in the UK right now, even though it's democratically elected, is because everybody who governs us is a product of a certain background. It's just this, even if they have an understanding of the price of milk or whatever, it's this us and theming thing. It's like, we're not seen really all as the same group of people, and people are going to govern for themselves, essentially, unfortunately.
But we've spoke about this before. And it's like, how do you get around that? How do you prevent that becoming sort of more niche politics, becoming more and more specialized? And then there's a sort of there's a political class that rises up that it's pure function is just to be bred and born and be politicians. Like, how do you stop that from happening? Like, is it always inevitable when you have some sort of political and sort of structure that you're always going to have something that bred just to keep that going.
Yeah, because you need somebody who also knows how to do it. Like you can't just pick somebody out of a phone book or get somebody in who's like a professor or a scientist or something like that, because they're not necessarily going to know how the whole system works. So I do kind of wonder if, at least the way we have it organized now, it is a bit inevitable that people are going to specialize at doing politics rather than what politics is about, if you know what I mean.
Like politics is supposed to serve us, but we serve politics. It's all just about numbers and generating interest and having the popular vote. Yeah,
and staying in power and and then I think, but also the flip side is we see somebody like Donald Trump, who I think isn't a politician at all, and he is equally making a hash of it just because he is so disoriented by the whole system.
And she, like Theresa May, she quite clearly doesn't like most people,
Yeah.
Yet she's someone that's in charge of governing a whole country.
Yeah. She's fascinating to me because she's not, to me, there's nothing like overtly terrible about, a lot of her personal politics or anything. Like in terms of if somebody was going to come in and absolutely stomp a country.
Supposedly she smokes big fat J's.
I wish she would. God, maybe it'd calm her down a bit.
Her husband owns like lots
that
of
is true.
medical marijuana, quote unquote.
Yeah.
She probably goes home and blazes it every night.
She should, honestly. Like, oh my God.
She's probably the poster child for don't blaze. If she's
maybe.
getting blazed all the time, she just doesn't know how to run the country. Secretly, she's a complete stoner.
That'd be
That's
so
why she
funny.
left. Like,
that's why she always looks so baffled.
She's dancing like she doesn't know what her arms
doing
are.
Herky jerky dancing. Yeah, completely. That's
She's
it.
blazed all the time.
But yeah, in terms of somebody who, like, compared to somebody like Putin or Trump or something, I don't think really has any totally crazy ideas. And if somebody that dull can be that much of a disaster, it's just like, oh my God. Like, she's certainly, done things when she was home secretary that obviously I took personally. But again, theoretically, it's sort of a chicken and the egg thing, but theoretically, she was following the will of a people who were alarmed by immigration and wanted immigration targets lowered significantly.
Yeah.
But did people come to that conclusion on their own, or did they come to that conclusion because it was kind of planted by the government to give people some sort of enemy other than the government?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is true. I don't know. We'll just have to see. For us in the UK here, it's just all up in the air.
Yeah.
Because of March the 19th. March 19th?
March later.
Something. March-tember something.
March-tember 1st.
So for us, like everything's slightly just on pause because everyone's just waiting to hear what's going to happen. Yeah. Because no one knows. No. I mean, there's going to be a few people that said one thing and were probably completely wrong about others, but just because they were right accidentally, not because it comes from an educated place. Some people are just going to be right because they'll say a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, because kind of anything could happen. And
those people will be like, well, I told you so. And it's like,
yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. Can't wait to see who the dial stops on for that one and how insufferable they are. Yeah, it was funny when we were over at the home of a neighbor of your dad for drinks the other night, and we were being asked, like, where do we think we're going to end up long term in terms of, obviously we have ties.
You and I.
Yeah. Not the state of the nation. In terms of
you're an alien, so
I am an alien, yes. Having ties to Canada and to Scotland, and it was sort of like they didn't seem to get, and I guess maybe it's just that generation, but they were like, they didn't seem to get that there were external forces that were putting us off wanting to be in the UK based on the whole EU thing. They were like, well, whatever, it's not going to be a big deal.
It feels like,
are you kidding me?
The adult generation, adults to us, what we consider adults is maybe a bit older than what people who are 20 consider adults.
Yeah, us.
But adults to us, they just, like you say, they don't grasp that our decisions would be affected by, like, literally affected by what's going to be coming up. And we would be just a bit not inclined to say what we're going to do or even have an idea of what we're going to do because of what might come, what may happen in 3 months. Yeah, and not seeming to get, like, in even just the event of all this uncertainty, if we can leave, if we have that option, why wouldn't we? Yeah. In terms of... Yeah. It just was very
bizarre. It's like, do you really think nothing's going to change? Like, that's not what's going to happen. So
I think people are so beaten by this issue. Like the general public are just so jaded by everything that's been going on with like 3 bloody votes leading up to everything, you know, with the Scottish referendum and then sort of the voting for the leaving the EU, and then there was the general elections as well. So it was like just constant talk and chatter. I mean, it has to be there, obviously, but I think everyone's so confused as to what is right. They're just not saying anything now.
Yeah, not seeing again that even if it's not like the purge, that doesn't mean. Why would you want to live somewhere where you expect your quality of life to get worse?
I'd love to live in the purge, actually.
That would be interesting, at least.
And
at least there'd be some excitement. Oh, cheers. It's okay, I've got a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it under the bed, so...
No, we'll just lock up for the night and then I'll tuck you into bed really tightly and then beat you up with bars of soap and a sock.
That's really creepy.
And lets me vent against you for the rest of the year, and I'll be so nice to you. That's how the purge works, Laura.
When's my purge? When do I get to beat you up with bars of soap?
You're Canadian. You just purge with like your words or something.
Something lame, like not beating your partner.
You damn Scots, man. That's swearing and
I said
like
darn.
xenophobia in the same sentence. You'd be purging real hard.
Sexism as well, because you're a boy.
That damn boy.
Damn boy.
Yeah, I never got to speak about this on one of the shows, but did you hear about the whole Jeremy Corbyn situation where in the Houses of Parliament he was seen to be saying that damn woman or something, stupid woman.
Yeah.
I think he did, but it doesn't matter to me. And they had people coming in that were like lip readers. Every party had their own sort of lip reader, and you just think because someone's a lip reader that they're impartial to the politics, but they probably have people that are like conservative lip readers. So they're like, he said that fucking stupid woman.
Yeah.
And, like, and then they have like sort of Labour ones was like that beautiful, amazing woman.
That paragon of femininity with her size 14 kitten heels. The thing I found weird, because first of all, it's like so transparent that if one side is seen to say something like that, the other side will condemn it for being sexist or whatever. And it doesn't matter. Nobody on either side actually gives a shit about it, first of all. Certainly, I'm pretty sure not too many of the Tories give a shit about sexism. Second of all, he didn't say she's stupid because she's a woman.
Yeah.
He said she was stupid, which is arguably, at least to me, correct, but it's an opinion. And then, like, what's he at stupid human? Is that what rolls
like,
off
how
the
do
tongue?
you? It doesn't roll off the tongue just as easy. It'd be like, that's stupid. You sound stupid saying it.
You stupid.
You stupid.
Yeah.
You're so stupid.
And if he'd used like a slur in place of woman, or if he'd said she's stupid because she's a woman, that's fine. But if she was a man, he'd say
How would
stupid
she say
man.
that?
Like,
you're stupid because you're a bloody woman.
Exactly. Well, if he'd been like arguably, like that would be sexist. Like, she's an idiot because she's a woman. Then that would be sexist.
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 Like sexting.
Sexiest. But no, it's like if she was a man, presumably he'd say stupid man. Like, I don't get, it's disrespectful to her office. I don't care. It is that's, I think, the worst thing you could say about it.
But it's like you can't even have an opinion now when it comes to, you know, you could just think she's stupid. It's not tied into her being a woman just because he said the word woman.
Exactly.
That was the descriptor.
And unless she was like trans or something, and then it would be like an identity politics issue, and then he could be in trouble.
But what if she was trans
fine.
woman and he said that stupid woman?
Yeah.
Like, he's still calling her a woman.
Yeah, that would be confusing. Yeah.
No. It's not. Well, like, it's like, what if they kicked up a fuss about that? And it's like, well,
yeah. What would you prefer he calls her? Yeah. No, that's what I mean by confusing. It's sort of like, it's sort of a plus and a minus, I guess. Yeah, I don't get why pointing out somebody's gender is sexist. That doesn't make sense to me.
Then people will probably respond to that by then, why I don't think he should point it out because it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah. And I mean,
also like,
it also doesn't matter. But again, he has to identify who he's speaking about. And that's one way to do it. Stupid Teresa. I don't know.
Yeah, you got like in your own mind say who you're saying it to as well.
Yeah.
That
and the other thing is like,
bloody
if this
Therese
is a
Bott.
man who's lost control of his mouth and that's the worst thing he can come up with to say, like that's a pretty clean brain actually. That's not that bad compared to what it could have been.
Somewhat under his breath. And that's
exactly.
the best thing he can say.
I know. And compared to some of the behavior in there as well on every side, like it's relatively staid. It was just because it's Jeremy Corbyn that everyone lost their collective minds about it.
Yeah, I'm not into that. Like it was a distraction. That's all it was from what was going on.
Completely. Yeah. And how long did that take up the news cycle with getting all these bloody lip readers? And I think it was something from the the lip readers union, and they needed some extra work. Yeah. They needed to make their whatever yearly budget. So they came up with something they all had to lip read about.
They were like bringing in more to sort of like
well, you better get another 98 lip readers in here to sort this one out.
We're going to unionize.
Yeah.
So I've got like a little fact here, and it's only because you are a fan of this place.
Oh, yes?
11 babies have been born in Antarctica.
Really?
Yes, but that is not all, and none of them have died as infants. So that means Antarctica has the lowest infant mortality rate at 0%.
Wow, that's cool. That's a lot of babies.
What would you say your birthplace was then?
Yeah, do you get a passport? I guess because I don't know.
Well, you would consider what would
an
someone
Antarctican? Imagine having to fill out web forms.
A guy from Nantarctican.
No one would believe you.
You're just like, oh, very funny.
You'd also
Antarctica.
You wouldn't need a chat up line other than that for the rest of your life. Like, I was born in Antarctica, and everyone's clothes would just fall off. At least that's my opinion. I love Antarctica. So.
Oh, you and the bloody penguins, eh? If they were from Canada, they would say that.
Yeah. That is fantastic. I'm very interested in that.
Yes, and another one here, which I found pretty funny. A child once turned orange from drinking too much Sunny Delight.
How orange?
The company used beta carotene found in carrots to colour the drink, which can make you orange at extremely high doses. The girl was drinking 1.5 litres a day of Sunny Delight.
Oh my God.
She must have been no teeth. Like,
exactly.
Imagine like
you just have little nubbins. They'd be as orange as the rest of her for one thing. Oh my God.
She's lucky she might have her adult teeth coming through as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because those are going to be a write-off. Yeah. Ooh, golem teeth. Well, that's terrifying. Where were this girl's parents? I guess at least it's not. Well,
I have to be American though. I have to be.
That's freaky.
That is
I think because if I drink 1.5 liters of anything, I feel quite sloshy. And she'd be wee if she's a kid. There's not a lot of room for all that liquid in a kid. She must have been peeing 24/7 as well.
1.5 litres a day.
Yeah.
Of Sunny D.
You would just be constant because I think it has added vitamin C, and your body just gets rid of vitamin C if you get extra. So
you
would
just keep
be
pissing it out all the time.
Continually.
Yeah, a racehorse. You'd just be like an IV drip of Sunny D. Just constantly
it would just be this Sunny D coming straight out again. It wouldn't be anything else.
Yeah, just be like reject. There's like a saturation point of Sunny D where you're just like pissing pure Sunny D.
Parents must have gone broke as well. It's a lot of.
I remember there was a bit of a fuss kicked up at my old primary school.
Yeah.
Because they thought one of the kids was sort of dying because he kept pissing like bright red. Or like a sort of dark pinkish purple. And he was Welsh, so he ate like a lot of beetroot. But he would pee like sort of like a faint purpley pink.
Yeah.
And it was like very weird to look at when you're, not that I was looking, but it's hard not to when you see someone like ejecting purple
be like,
fluids.
Honey, are you okay? That's Kool-Aid. Yeah.
They were trying to get to the bottom of it, and that was like, is there something wrong? Is he dying? Is he rotten from the inside down?
Yeah, because you could have like porphyria. I think that gives you that. Yeah.
And then they eventually put it down to him just eating beetroot all the time.
Actually, I remember the first time I had beetroot when I was a kid, my parents being like, just FYI, something might be a bit different. Like, don't freak out, you're not dying, it's fine.
I wonder if it has an effect on men, like with, that old wives' tale, if you eat certain fruits, then that makes your
Oh yes, I have heard that. Yeah. I don't know how to think of any euphemism I come up with is just gonna be way worse.
I'll go on a beetroot fast. Just shooting purple loads. Take those blue and purple loads.
That would be a very
Ectoplasm.
interesting superpower.
It looked like ectoplasm, like glowing purple ectoplasm.
Oh my god. Funnily enough, actually, beetroot is on the menu for dinner tonight, so maybe I'll cut that out.
Yeah, don't want to get in about that. So yeah, that is one of my...
That is fascinating. Wow, the Sunny D kid. That's crazy.
So obviously it being New Year tends to bring a lot of people with their New Year's resolutions. Is it something that you deal with or?
No.
Okay.
I just like...
So you don't want to better yourself as a person?
Not according to the human calendar. I kind of feel like if you need the... Like, you know how many people we saw running yesterday? And you just know it just happens year after year.
Well, we actually saw a super hipster running on our... And the reason we know this is because he was wearing brogue shoes.
Yes. Dress socks.
And cut off... Chinos.
Yeah.
Like, was running, jogging. Yeah.
And he wasn't running for the bus. No. He was like out for a jog.
A jog. It's obviously he'd went like... Had made a bet with his friends, coped up, you know, you're like, I'm going to get fit this year.
I'm going to
go
run every day.
And then your friends woke you up the next day and were like, get up, you're going for a run today.
You're like, I don't have any running shoes. Yeah.
Just put what you had on for the night before.
Yeah.
Don't know why you'd be
Cut
wearing short
chinos.
Imagine the decision process that must have went on for that. It's like, right, I'm going to go jogging. One, I don't have any running shoes.
Yeah.
And two, I don't have any running shorts. What can I do out of what I have to make this sort of possible? I know, I'll cut off my tight chino trousers into shorts.
Yes.
And wear brogue shoes.
And wear the least reasonable pair of shoes. Like, do you not at least have a pair of a plain color of sock? Like, at least for credibility. That was so funny.
Yeah, he should have went with like something a bit more plain colored, as your eye is immediately drawn to his silly brogues that he was wearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you not, like, Shirley has a pair of, like...
Shirley does not.
Shirley doesn't? She don't have any. But yeah, no, I've never... I think when I was, like, a kid, I used to entertain the idea of New Year's resolutions, but it's like, I don't need the year to be the boss of me if I want to change something in my life. I'm just going to try and do it. And I don't need to wait for it to be January 1st.
It's not because you're a contrarian.
It is also because I'm a contrarian. I hate, like... Just that type of thing really annoys me for some reason, and it's none of my business if anyone else does it, but I'm just super annoyed by them.
I think it's good. Like, I think it gives you a sort of a yearly check-in with yourself to sort of be like...
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be to punish yourself either.
No.
It should just be to sort of put yourself on what you think is the right track. And if you're obviously upset about it, then it means something to you to get this done and be this way. So obviously just follow it and try and... the big issue I see a lot of people when they're making New Year's resolutions, especially when it comes to fitness, is just going full hog for that first week. It's the same with anything. Like, you'll just completely annihilate yourself. Like, you have to work up to it. I mean, it's all good when you're in your head, you're like, I just want to be at the point that I think I should be at immediately. And it doesn't work like that. You have to taper it up.
Absolutely.
Even with the diet as well. Like, just to go completely the flip side of what you've been eating for the last year is going to kill you, because there's all these sugars that you're going to be yearning for. Just build your way up, you know. Unless you're like 500 pounds overweight, there's no need to sort of just jump in full hog. Like, the way I always feel when I start going to the gym after being off regularly is the first couple of weeks you feel like absolute shit. Like, you don't want to stop eating shit. Yeah. You know, but you feel like you want to just get through it, and you don't want to exercise for the first 2 weeks or whatever. Well, once you get past that, you start craving like the stuff that your body needs to repair and recover. Yeah. You know, you feel better when you eat something good, and then you go to the gym, and then afterwards you eat something and you feel like you've done what you need to. And then you sort of slowly sort of just naturally stay away from those types of foods. On the regular, you know, as regular as most people eat sort of terrible food. Yeah, because I think the biggest objection I have to the New Year's resolution thing is you're putting so much pressure on yourself to be a new person, basically, on a pretty arbitrary... Like, it is good to have a time to check in. I definitely agree with that. But it is an arbitrary time to do it. Like, we invented the calendar... the earth run around the sun one time, like, cool. And it's that kind of the scrutiny of like everyone knows what you're doing. Yeah.
Which maybe helps some people, but I think when you're making massive changes like that.
Yeah, it's an accountability thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main things they say is to sort of make it public.
Yeah.
And that way you're more inclined to keep on top of what you're doing.
But I think that's one thing if you're like discussing it with your partner and your friends, like that kind of thing. But it's another thing when you're like
Facebook.
Like part of this massive group of people that's all doing this. Like in some ways, it's like both. Because you're kind of joining this trope where like already there are cartoons being published about people failing to accomplish their New Year's resolutions. Like it just
where
on the internet, my darling.
That is internet.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know. I think if you're really intent on making changes, it has to come from somewhere more mature than what day of the year it is. Because I think it's the trope as well of like you start, you fail, you start again next year, and that's like too long time as well.
You fail sort of like relatively early, then you've got like 9 months to sort of
exactly.
You've given yourself a bracket of 9 months to just do whatever you want.
And like I've already had customers come in saying like we were doing dry January, but we don't really like it, and it's like that was like less than a week into the year.
I think I might do dry February.
Well, you will be doing that without me.
Is there one? Is it called something? You know, you get the Movember. And Decembeard is a good one. I did that all year round. Sometimes. I'm pretty terrible at Decembeard actually because I end up shaving it off.
It's looking good right now.
Let's see if there's a word for it. Yeah, because I've been kind of just getting like a little bit jaded with drinking. Dry.
You certainly gave it socks the other night.
Oh my god. Dry. Here's why you should dry. Oh, dry February. Okay, so I'm gonna do dry February. The only reason I'm doing that is because Laura and I have a date this week.
Yes.
And yeah, I don't want to not drink. So, yeah. So I think I'll go with dry February. But like as I was saying, like I've gotten so jaded with it, and I think when you start to feel like that is when it's time to just take a little bit of a breather from it.
Yeah.
You know, just not have the routine based around the alcohol at that point.
Yeah. Because I think especially with beers and stuff, like we get into habits of having a beer every night and we don't need to do that.
No.
And I certainly don't miss actually that. I felt better for not doing that as much. But for me, for wine, out of my cold dead grip, probably because
but you work in wine.
I
so
do
that's
work.
different.
Yeah, exactly. I work in it would be literally impossible for me to do my job and not drink. If I was serious about not drinking, I would quit my job basically because it's just like it's not even like socially. It's like I have to sample wines. I could spit them all out, but I'd still basically be drinking.
Yeah, you're imbibing.
And we like this is the time of year as well for trade tastings. So if you weren't drinking, you'd just be completely out of the loop.
I feel like you're full of excuses.
I am, yeah. But the thing is, like, I don't want to not, so I don't care, basically.
The true side of an alcoholic is like, I could quit, but I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't have any reason to quit either. Like, I don't.
Oh, really?
No, because I don't.
What about your liver, your health, your mental health?
I don't drink enough to affect any of that. So, yeah.
You definitely do.
I do not. I do it. So, like, this time of the year is not a good place to take a whatever from.
I think you're an alcoholic, Laura.
Do you?
Yep.
Well, too bad.
I remember reading an article some years ago, and it was about two alcoholics that had gotten together when they were sort of partying. They'd gotten 3 years down the relationship when one of them decided that he wanted to quit drinking. He didn't realize that they were alcoholics at the time. And then the big sort of like moment was when the relationship was built on alcoholism.
Yeah.
And they just found like there was nothing there when they were like trying to get sober and whatever.
Yeah.
Like they just felt no like sort of connections like they had done because they spent essentially 3 years just drunk.
Just drunk the whole time, yeah.
And they just didn't feel like they were right for each other. So they ended up splitting up, and it was just alcohol that brought them together.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. Yeah. Because that's also like it's hard enough to untangle an addiction anyway. And if you also have to manage a relationship at the same time with somebody else who's addicted, then it's like
too much. I totally use alcohol to numb the pain of being with you. It's just
okay, cool.
Yeah,
well, February's gonna suck for you, buddy, because I'm gonna keep drinking.
I'm moving out for 30 days. Or 28. It's the shortest month. That's why I'm doing
That's
February.
what I told you. That's why I told you should do February. And I don't think it's even a leap year. So. But yeah.
Should be good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. It's easy though. Like there's been times I've felt like I wanted to do it in January and I was like, I just want to get that one sort of thing over the way, and it's good to start these things when you can count along with it as well. If you do it like the 15th, then you're like, oh, it's the 15th to the 15th or whatever.
So I think it's the same with me and like setting my alarm for 7:03 or whatever. Like I don't, stuff like that doesn't.
Who sets their fucking alarm for 7:03?
What's the difference between 7:03 and 7? Like there's just minutes. Like why is that culturally mandated that you have to do it at even numbers or something?
That's not an even number.
Why?
You're
Why
just
5?
a dick and a contrarian.
What if I want
that's
3
it.
more minutes of sleep, but I don't need 5 more minutes of sleep?
You don't know that.
Yes, I do. I'm the boss of me.
Why do you think the 3 minutes makes a difference?
It makes me feel better.
I think you're
like psychologically.
I think you're maybe secretly just an absolute sociopath.
Oh no, for real, I'm a sociopath.
3 minutes.
Can't work in hospitality and not be a sociopath. It makes you a sociopath because people suck.
So, am I under the impression that you met someone famous yesterday at your job?
Yeah. I didn't meet them per se, in that we didn't shake hands and exchange names. But it was the very beautiful and pleasant Jessica Brown Findlay of Downton Abbey, and
wow, was she in Downton Abbey?
Yeah, she's one of the main
folks. What's her name? Jessica
Brown
Findlay.
And she came into the bar. It was very quiet. She was pleasant, and I didn't bother her because I'm Canadian and nobody wants that.
So she's also been in one of my favorite episodes of Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one it's called. Is it called Credits, I think, or something like that? But yeah, she's like very beautiful. She's the girl in
gorgeous.
it. She was the girl that he tried to save all the credits up for and help, and to get her on like a sort of X Factor style type show, but the personalities on it, the judges are more extreme, and it's sort of like a life and death situation, I think, or so I think the episode was called 15 Million Merits.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a great episode.
It is really good. That was one of the first ones I saw, I think.
Yeah, I think that was the one I showed you first, because it was like, I'll just show you the one I think's the best straight away.
Because I'd seen like one of the Christmas specials before that. I still have a lot of Black Mirror to watch, actually.
Oh,
but
and the movie.
Yeah, but you wouldn't watch it with me, so.
It's hard to watch with someone because it's like a choose your own adventure, and you have to make a decision in this relationship sooner or later. So why not start with that?
You don't like it when I do.
What do you mean? I always like it when you make a decision.
I'm just putting you on the spot. You guys like it when I make one, but you don't necessarily like my decision. But yeah, she came into the bar and she was really, really nice.
Did she order anything weird? Like
she did.
What, an 8-ball of cocaine?
She did not know.
Frog's legs.
She ordered, and as she acknowledged, slightly a weird thing to order in a wine bar, she ordered an alcohol-free beer. So maybe she's doing dry January. Or maybe she really likes alcohol-free beer, unaccountably.
So I was Googling the Bandersnatch, which is the movie, the Black Mirror one.
Yes.
And there's a headline that's came up today on the BBC.
And it says, don't watch it with your girlfriend.
And you know how it has Will Poulter?
Yeah.
He quits Twitter today.
Oh, really?
And I think it's in relation with the movie.
Oh, I hope he's okay.
So the Bandersnatch actor Will Poulter has quit Twitter following the response to his role in the Black Mirror episode.
Really?
It wasn't an episode, it's a movie.
Cool.
Will, who appears as Colin Rittman, the Choose Your Own Adventure Netflix drama, says he needs to change his relationship with social media. Some people commenting on Bandersnatch called Will ugly for his appearance in the show.
Oh, sweet pea.
In the light of my recent experiences, I'm choosing to take a step back of sorts from Twitter. He also thanked people who commented on the show for the responses. He was amazing. He's a good actor. Like,
yeah.
I hate people saying that.
That's so sad.
He's always been like the best in the terrible stuff that he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's done a lot of terrible movies, but he's been the best part about it. He was like, I always equate him in my mind to Shia LaBeouf in his earlier roles. Like, You know, the one where he did Holes?
Yeah.
That was a terrible... Well, some people love Holes. I didn't like it.
I like the book.
It was a terrible movie,
the film.
but Shia LaBeouf was the best part about that movie. And he was kind of like the British version of that, I think. But he didn't go down the whole I'm an arsehole route.
The whole rat tail freak out. Yeah.
Shy in the buff.
He said it first. That's really sad. I hope he is feeling okay. Not that you like have to be on Twitter or whatever, but if it's because he was being made to feel bad, that really sucks.
So he was tweeting leading up to it saying he was nervous about the episode's release.
Yeah.
So comments about his parents were posted about Bandersnatch came out on 28th. He's leaving. That's crazy.
That sucks.
I mean, I know not everyone's going to like it.
No.
But at the same time, people just abuse Twitter to sort of make themselves feel better about attacking celebrities.
Oh, totally.
You know,
Yeah.
people,
yeah.
It's kind of like almost holding someone hostage when you make comments towards them on a platform like that. Because you think they're so big that they're not going to comment back. You know, they should be this sort of like entity that is unreachable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. Like Twitter is like almost like a one-on-one thing. Like if you message someone, more than likely that they're going to see something like that, and they just don't reply because a lot of people are very aware of negative feedback, and obviously that it's going to be amazing feedback.
Yeah,
but there's some people that most people, I think most actors are just the same as everyone else. Like they're going to see negative stuff, and it's just going to like affect them. Now we shouldn't give them a self of like a sense of inflated ego or anything.
No, it's not that
but
you're
just
like
when you
only allowed to say nice
people
things
on social media like that just for making something and being something. Like the director asked him to be in the fucking movie.
And nobody who's tweeting something like that is doing it because they're in a good place in their lives either. They're only doing it, like nobody's doing that who's happy and healthy and wealthy and, you know, has good friends and
art,
whatever.
Art is art. It's all sort of subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, subjective.
Yeah, and if you...
So, you know, to attack someone for them doing something that someone can absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Watch out billion times, absolutely love them, and then just attack them just for being in it. It's just a bit...
Well, but it sounds like it's about his appearance mostly as well.
Yeah,
like in terms of his physical appearance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I read that.
I thought it meant his appearance in the movie.
Oh, it might have. I just was going for
either way
how he looks.
I think if it's by his looks, then and it's set in the fucking 80s. Like he's got bleach blonde hair. Everyone looked like fucking idiots in the 80s.
No, and he's not like conventionally super attractive. But the thing is, like, he's a famous face. He's an actor. Like he's like, who cares? Like it's not.
He added that he would occasionally continue to tweet for several anti-bullying organizations.
Oh, babe.
And I hope that this shift to reduce my personal expression and increase the focus on the issues that matter will result in a better outcome for everyone. I think that's just him being young and knowing that you just can't please everyone. Like, once you finally start to understand that, but it's hard maybe he suffers from some sort of level of anxiety and depression that he's not talked about. And these are things that go through your mind constantly if something like that comes up. And it's just...
I think even if somebody says something insulting to you that seems completely off base, you're still going to think about why they said it as well. Like, it's still going to be like, but where could they maybe have gotten that from? Like, is there some truth to it that I've somehow missed? Like if you're not already anxious, that's going to make you anxious, basically.
It's just like, I personally thought it was awesome. I think if you go through it a few more times, you get different outcomes because it's a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
It was short, and the outcome I got, I didn't like, but it wasn't.
But it was your choice.
It wasn't a slight on the movie. It was just the way I sort of traversed it.
And I don't go, as you say, he was somebody who was cast in a movie by somebody. I don't see why, if you were unhappy with the movie as a whole, why you would bother one of the actors about it. It's so weird.
Even if he probably didn't even dress himself for the part either.
Yeah.
There'll be a whole deluge of people that would have done that, would have gave him his glasses, his bleach blonde hair, said you have to, and I think he's somewhat modeled on someone who's quite real as well. So if that's true, then it's even more farcical that someone would be
Yeah.
like, your appearance offends me.
Yeah, like I love that somebody, you know, some cellar dweller is gonna like decide that this actor is the person to whom they need to express their
Just there we go. Yeah, that's
cool.
fine. Not that it makes a difference. Did you hear Rob on the
That
last
was
episode?
funny. You're like, because I edited
When, when you say that, I don't hear any difference at all.
I like your wee impression.
Well,
there. That's funny.
Rob.
Rob. I really enjoyed that episode, by the way. It was very, very funny.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was
Good to have the lads on. It was good to have that. I think leading up to the Christmas episode, I was like, there is only 2 other people that I would want on for that. And they came on. Obviously, I had to be there, but you know, you can't help those things.
No, you can't really. No, you should just sort of like get a Roomba who can do your job and
beep boop beep.
Beep boop boop boop. Plugs things, unplugs things.
A Roby the robot.
And Roby the robot.
So you met this lady from.
Yeah, and like I say, I didn't bother her other than doing my job, explaining menus.
I mean,
like
there's she probably, I don't know if she is on Twitter, but she probably got something on just on the percentage of people that would have said something on Twitter or a public forum like that. It probably would have been like more or less the same as what this guy's getting, but it just depends on how you take it, like how you feel. I'm not saying he's taking it the wrong way. You can't help how you feel.
No, why
about
should he put up with it? Yeah, because he doesn't have to sit there and take it either.
No.
Yeah, but no, it just depends on how you respond to things. And I mean, it's sort of sad because probably the best way of avoiding being made to feel like that is just not engaging with fans at all. And that sucks.
Yeah. Then you get called an idiot for not doing that.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who it was. I feel like maybe it was, I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it was maybe somebody who was on one of the podcasts we listened to who was saying like he gets messages from people saying like, you suck. And he'd write back and like say something and be like, oh my God, I didn't think you'd answer. I'm such a big fan.
Who was that?
I don't remember.
I think it was on this show.
Perhaps one of your massive celebrities.
Me, actually,
Probably you.
Because
yeah.
I get a lot of
well, you never write me back when I message you.
I message you saying you suck. You're terrible. Make me a cup of tea.
Weird. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was and I think she possibly is our first purchaser of our new alcohol-free beer as well. So,
why would anyone want that?
I don't know. Maybe she just really likes alcohol-free beer.
I mean, when does someone want an alcohol-free beer? A lot of people don't like the taste of beer. Is it just to be part of the group and hold something and have something that is kind of convincing you that you are part of the beer circle?
I think in terms of taste, if I'm not drinking, I'd rather have something like that than like a soft drink because you can only kind of, they're just a bit like sweet and icky.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Like I'd rather have that than a pint of Coke or something like that.
But the only good bit of the beer is the alcohol.
See, I don't know if it's a night, because some of the no alcohol beer is really nasty, but I quite like the taste of beer as long as it's not like disgusting beer. And ours is a nice fancy German one. So yeah.
You're a nice fancy German one.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I don't think I'd go for alcohol-free wine just since I am like a critical drinker of wine, and I think it would just weird me out too much in terms of like balance and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the taste comes from the actual alcohol.
Yeah, and part of like what is going to make a wine good or not good is how all the different parts of the wine relate to the alcohol content as well. So, but with beer, yeah, I'd have one, I think. Yeah.
I've never tried one, or have I? I think I had a friend who he's one of these people that just can't drink. Like as soon as he has 3 or 2 or 3 beers, he just like gets that sheen over his eyes and becomes a completely different person.
Oh.
And at a lot of sort of Christmas time, he would just end up drinking alcohol-free beer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I had a taste of some of his. And I was just like,
because some of it's nasty, but some of it's actually quite good.
And I gave up on beer for a while because just before the wave of the IPAs that were coming in, beer was just making me tired. And if I drank like Tenants, it would just make me go to the bathroom all the time.
Oh, it's gross as well. It
and I
doesn't
was
taste
like,
nice.
I don't want to do it. So I only drink vodka when I was out for a long time. And then obviously I'm getting too old for that. Like double body Red Bulls.
Oh God, no!
Like
it gives
some
me
of
a
the
heart
worst
attack
stuff.
just thinking about
some
it.
of the worst stuff
God,
I've ever done it has been on like double body Red Bulls, just being a complete arse at parties.
Turns into the Kool-Aid man. You're like bursting through walls and stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's a double diuretic. So when you wake up that morning after a night out on both that, it's some of the worst hangovers I've ever had.
So much crap to put in your body because you've got sugar, you've got caffeine, you've got whatever weird chemicals are in Red Bull, which is supposedly vegan, so it's not from bull testicles, I guess.
Taurine.
Yeah. But and then you've got obviously vodka, which can be absolute paint stripper depending on.
And the way I drink is I drink alcohol the way I drink just normal anything else. Like I'm not very good at sort of prolonging a drink.
Yeah.
I just drink it. It's the same with food, actually. I eat quite fast.
You sure do. Yeah. Because I've noticed, like, I think in terms of us drinking, I would drink more often than you. You would drink more in a session than I would. Like, when you start, you don't want to stop. Whereas I'll be like, no, I'm good now. No,
totally.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Yeah. I'm trying to get more on that end of being where end the night you don't have to have that extra beer or that extra drink. You can just go back and have a cup of tea. Like it's not, you don't have to automatically assume that when you're on it for life. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think when I'm drinking, I really want to be enjoying what I'm drinking. I don't want to be like struggling to finish my whatever. And then I don't want to fall straight into bed and feel awful the next day. I want to like chill and just not be like, So I think that's it. But I think like more nights of the week, I'd be like, I quite fancy a glass of wine.
Yeah. You have to. I mean, I think with wine, because you can't down it.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just take it more slowly with it.
Yeah.
Because it just becomes, what is it about wine that you just can't actually chug? Like you can't chug a whole bottle of wine.
Well, because there's so much of everything in it. Like if you think of like relative to beer, there's a lot more alcohol. I think it's the tannins as well because they can be quite mouth drying.
As in like the guy from Buff Tannen, but from Back to the Future.
Oh.
3.
What's his name in that?
There's something tannin. Is that not his name?
I don't remember the tannin part. Otherwise, there's some wine memes to be made from that.
I'll get it. Continue.
There's just like a whole lot of everything in there. And that's why you have to drink smaller amounts of it than, beer or whatever.
If you try and chug like a whole bottle of wine, you're just in severe...
Oh, God, you're going to be. Yeah.
Oh, it's Biff Tannen.
Biff Tannen.
Biff Tannen.
I'm definitely going to see if I can get away with describing as a wine as having Biff Tannins. This is going to be my new game with myself.
Has the odor
this wine
of
has
Biff
Tannins.
Manure. I hate manure.
That's funny because you do get manure with some wine. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's part of the whole like farmy horsey, Britannomyces kind of vibe. Yeah. You can get manure.
British mice are in your wine.
Yes, British Myces. Don't choose as far as species.
And sort of leading on from when we were talking about the Celts.
Yes. We keep on wandering away from that.
We were talking about sort of Greek influences and places like Sicily because we just watched the documentary on that. And I was telling Laura about how MMA, the oldest forms of MMA called pancration was in Greece, in ancient Greece.
That was cool.
This was the first form. It was like boxing and wrestling techniques together. And then eventually became part of the Olympic Games, the original Olympic Games. And there's like parts of history that have been said that Hercules and Theseus invented pancration, and as a result of using wrestling and boxing in their confrontations. And then eventually it was used in different sort of mythological fights. Is it the Nemean lion? Nemean lion? Yeah, Nemean lion. The Minotaur, obviously, as well. That was all things that were used. Pancration was used to take them down. So it's pretty cool.
But it is like there's illustrations of it and stuff like that. It was something that was practiced, which is, I was saying when I was taught like Latin and classical civ and stuff as a wee little all-girls schoolgirl, I don't think my teachers necessarily understood the distinction between something like that and like wrestling. So I just had no idea about that. But
so it was invented in the 7th century BC, so 700 years before the birth of whatever.
Yeah. Although the people they cite with inventing it are both definitely mythological and probably mythological. Okay. So
But you can actually see
you can trace it back.
you can see people on old jars.
Yeah, the
like,
pottery.
They're doing like the old school sort of MMA techniques.
It's really cool.
They have like a like the cauliflower ear, which a lot of people in the MMA world get.
Yeah,
but it's just a natural thing that happens. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be. I don't think it's. I always find it surprising when people in modern times are like, "Oh, that happened to people back then as well," and it was like, well,
yeah, it happens if you get hit in the head.
Cauliflower ear isn't like a modern invention.
No,
not
it's
if
funny.
you're wrestling all day.
Although that was the thing I found weirdest is they were super into like idealized human form, so they wouldn't show stuff like that usually. So that was interesting. But that went through different periods.
But I think the cauliflower ear has always been idolized. It's sort of like a mark of warriors.
Yeah.
In Brazil specifically, they love. Like the women love the
Yeah.
cauliflower ear because they see it as a sort of a fighter status symbol in BJJ and MMA. And I think the cauliflower ear, I know what you're saying
Yeah,
about this.
because they didn't even use people's real faces.
Yeah.
Like it was like full on idealization.
But I think those ones, especially when it comes to the warrior class, like it'd be hard to leave out like those imperfections that make them perfect, you know.
Yeah, I see what you mean as well, but I think it's just a different mindset. It's like they certainly wouldn't show like scars or anything like that, which you'd think would be part of that. So
it would just be WWE wrestling then if you didn't have their
yeah.
the old
but
oil
that's the thing
oil change. You know what that one is?
Yes,
Checking for oil.
I do, unfortunately.
Do you? So yeah, pancreation. It's just so cool to see like. These old techniques are just. I mean, the body only moves in so many ways, even though there's like just untold amounts of techniques in different forms, especially BJJ. But at the same time, the body can only move in a certain amount of ways. So these things are obviously going to be a lot older than we think. You know, it might go back even further than pancreation. It might go to something that was sort of taught in sort of. Like caveman times to people to sort of protect themselves against other hunter-gatherers that are trying to beat them up.
And it's because it makes sense as well in terms of if they're practicing what are supposed to be combat arts. You don't go to war and then get somebody to just box you.
Or sword fight you.
Yeah.
No, you're just you have to do the bit, you have to learn something that is the in-between stuff. So when you lose your sword or your shield and you see someone else, you're not just going to be like, well, I don't have my sword and shield, so I'll just like run away now. No, you learned pancreation, so you're able to defend yourself in unarmed combat against someone else.
Yeah.
It was the same with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu comes from Japanese jiu-jitsu. Japanese jiu-jitsu was a form of hand-to-hand combat that was taught to sort of the warring dynasties, and it would be this like not the samurai themselves, but the armies, those soldiers would have oh well, not that the samurais probably didn't learn it as well, but it was like an army thing that was taught to each of the soldiers, so they're able to fight while disarmed.
It's cool.
It's really cool.
And that led us to a discussion about weightlifting as well, because I think you heard somewhere that hadn't been invented until.
Yeah, I thought like traditional weightlifting. I say trad.
Yeah, how traditional are we going?
I thought it was not sort of something that had been around. Obviously, it would have been thinking about it. I didn't think it would have been that long around, but how far did it go? Like the 7?
I can't remember now how far, but we'd seen a mosaic in a sort of palazzo in Sicily, and there was a girl in the mosaic, and it was definitely from the BCs, who was holding little hand weights, and you're like, what? Is she holding weights? And also because it's a woman, it's interesting.
Yeah, because it's like the sort of LA mom that's out and around doing a power walking with their tiny little hand weights.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It looked
like
exactly like those. Yeah, it was so funny. You're like, what?
Minus 2 pound dumbbells, you know?
Yeah.
So a means to measure strength and power, weightlifting was practiced both by ancient Egyptian and Greek societies, developed as an international sport primarily in 19th century. It was one of the few sports to have featured at the 1896 Athens Games.
That's cool.
But I think this is the sort of just measurable sort of history.
Yeah, because it's also like weightlifting as a sport definitely has a more modern whatever, but as something you were doing just to improve yourself, it certainly went back.
So weight training definitely went back to one of the dynasties in China.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see history. Yeah, it's one of the dynasties. I can't remember, but it was something. It was like
It was super long ago.
it's like
Yeah.
7th century.
Yeah.
7th century BC.
Mm-hmm.
They were practicing this in China, which
Yeah.
was went insane. Because your idea of that was just people were only buff in modern times.
Yeah.
We only had the science to back that up. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or just to like, but that, like, I think also that the Greeks especially considered mental and physical well-being as not being things that should be separate, like that your body and your mind were both things to be worked on.
Yeah. These are always things that are always coupled with when you're like a sort of not samurai, like a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Is the mind, working out your mind and your body, which is a huge part of it.
But they definitely applied that to everybody as well. Like, it wasn't just a question of the warrior classes, or I'm sure it wasn't like the peasants or whoever, but they'd have, if they were organizing gymnasia and stuff, you'd have, politicians going in there and
It's
whoever else.
History of weightlifting in China. These are all like modern Chinese Olympics. Yeah, it's Chinese history. Says that it was first sort of came around in those times, which is amazing. Like,
and also, like, by the time there's recorded history of it, it was already happening. Like, it's not like they invented it one day. Like,
and it would have been before what they consider Chinese people to be Chinese. Like, those people probably do they have anything in common with modern Chinese people?
Yeah,
it's the same with them. Our Italians, Romans.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people to say that those are not the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's hard to tell.
Yeah. I think I've always find that one a funny one because it's like everybody is different, like
you're different.
Yeah. But, like, everybody is made from certain ingredients from their past, but everyone has traveled around and things have changed, and you can relate to the past from the country you're living in. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Even just going far back as in Scotland to sort of clans and all that, like, is that sort of, if we had met those people, would we even really understand them or identify with them at all? Maybe, and that's only going back a few hundred years.
Yeah, it's true.
It gets way more squirrely when it's like 1,000, 2,000 years ago,
and I think
plus.
Because we look relatively the same, we assume we're the same on the inside as well.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways we were, and in other ways we really weren't. And that stuff's always fascinating, is when you think of sort of basic psychological stuff that we see as not movable. Like, we've talked before about kind of initially the invention of teenagers, and before that even kind of the invention of children. People didn't really have a concept of children at a certain point. They were just like short grown-ups, basically.
Like, you can go to work. We're going to throw you, especially in Edinburgh, like that was one of the massive images of Edinburgh sort of back in the day, was sending children up the chimneys to sweep them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It wasn't because they were children, it was just because they were small enough to get up there.
Yeah, they fit. Yeah. And that's not even that long ago. Again, like, that's not, we basically have the same shoes now as they did then, essentially, compared to like.
But do you think that is just something that it could coincide with industrialization? Obviously, maybe those things haven't been seen on that scale before, so that type of like connection to your kids is not is there as much.
I don't quite follow.
So say maybe like back in the clans, and all those times, people probably were just as in tune with, as the idea of children as they are now. But during the sort of that industrial era, like, everyone was just a commodity. Everything was just for money. You have to go out and work because we're all forced to be in this working day that everyone, and we're barely making money to eat. So everyone has to be then put in that position.
Yeah. I think if you go back further, though, you're in the same situation. It was just that people were slaves rather than employed.
But in the jungle, like, kids are kids, like hunter-gatherers. They know what not that they know, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
But they have the coming of age rituals, which then defines them from kids to then adults. There's not the teenage aspect of it.
And there's the same attitude to children in terms of being little critters who can't handle things and need to be coddled and protected. Like, you can't live like that if you're living outside of the suburbs, basically. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that just being short adults is an exaggeration, but people did not have the same concept of childhood.
Well, it's been an hour and a half, Laura. It's been fantastic to speak to you, but I think we're going to have to go and get some food.
Sounds good.
And we're going to watch, what did we say we were going to watch?
Either Saving Private Ryan or Legend.
I can't believe you've still not seen that. Both,
well, hurry up.
And if you don't know what Legend is, because I've met a lot of people who have never watched it. Yeah.
I've never watched it, but I know what it is.
It's an obscure movie for people who were around, who were conscious at that time and were into that sort of stuff. But for people who are maybe a little bit younger and they're not into that, it's just something that's not ever. And it's Tom Cruise as well. So basically, it's just like a fantasy world, and it's Tom Cruise, one of his first movies before he got his grill did.
Yeah, and he saw his little rat teeth. I'm excited.
And he's like a Peter Pan type character.
Ha, cool.
And then, yeah, it's a great movie.
And he never got any taller.
They have the legendary Tim Curry as the devil in it, and this is just, I would watch the movie just for that part because he's
really
amazing.
Excited. Yeah. Cool.
But anyway, yeah, we're gonna get something to eat. We're gonna have some booze. So thank you, everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Excellent.
I got to stock up on some booze before February.
Do aversion therapy, or just get you absolutely stuffed to the brim with booze, and then
I've just got enough to tide me over for 28 days at that point.
Pretty much.
I could maybe name it 28 days later.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, see if I've went full on zombie by the end of the 28 days.
Sounds good. I'll always be here to pour wine into your ears while you're sleeping if you need a little chemical readjustment.
You probably will do that.
I wouldn't waste wine on it, to be honest.
Are you trying to say I've got big ears?
No, you came up with that yourself.
You are so offensive, you know that.
I thought that was the mark of the warrior. Big ol' ears.
No, small ears.
Small ears?
Yeah, your actual ear canals get
little
smaller.
Little hippo ears? Oh, I see.
Anyway, you learn something every day. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We've been talking nonsense for the last hour, and anyone that is listening, thank you, and I will see you next week.
Bye. Bye.